So where are we? Waltham Abbey.
Yeah.
It's a nice little town.
You've explored more than me.
Yeah, so yesterday I went to the Abbey, which was really quite nice. Well, it's just kind of a little bit odd because it's obviously the large old stone building, but one portion of it has been removed or collapsed because you can still see the sort of outline of where the wall was, where there was an altar, and where King Harold, the last of the Saxon kings, was apparently buried. But that section where that altar was is now just part of the park. There are some really fascinating gravestones around there with like skulls on them and
Really?
stuff. Yeah, it's a little bit darkish in places. Yeah, no, the Abbey was really nice. And then I walked down to Lidl as well. There is a Sunday market, and it was Sunday, but I'd arrived after the market. So the town looks, you know, kind of quaint. For this close to London, it feels like a small town.
So you didn't go to the country park? That was really nice.
Didn't make it to the country park.
Me and George went there. It was nice.
The Abbey Gardens Park was also very pleasant. Time to move on. We didn't go to the gunpowder Gunpowder Museum. Ultimately just too expensive for what it is.
It's turning out to be a really hot sunny day today.
Well, at least sunny. I don't think it'll remain hot.
I've got a migraine, so I'm a bit grumpy.
So she'll be doing the driving. I will be doing the whacking of things with this. And
George was really good yesterday because whenever, like you may have noticed, I would do a lot of walking with him because he doesn't really like being on the boat. He gets a bit anxious. So if you're off the boat and you have to get him back on, he kind of really resists it. But yesterday he was just, I don't think he was just resigned to his fate, and he was getting on and off really quite well.
Yeah.
Oh, he gets off well, but he was getting back on quite well. So hopefully he'll do the same today.
We're planning ahead a bit more than we usually do right now to try and do some sort of faster movements.
Yeah.
Which
isn't ideal, to be honest.
No, and we've got to schedule things like we have to get a VHF radio. We have to schedule the figure out the actual sort of tide schedule and everything, and which days we can go on a Limehouse. And we have to look at that with weather.
Yeah, definitely. You know. And then we've got hopefully some visitors doing that section Limehouse to Teddington with us, so we need to give them notice so that they can like make their arrangements and stuff.
And we've got just basic things like we need to fuel up with diesel, and I need to get an oil change done before we go.
So it's about 11 hours to Bishop Stortford. We're going to go up to Stort first and then come back and do the rest of the Lee Navigation. So hopefully we're going to split that into 2 days and get like maybe 6 hours.
If we're lucky, we make it all the way to the junction with the Stort today.
Well, it's 20 locks in total, so I'd like to do 10 of the locks today.
If we're lucky, we make it all the way to the junction with the Stort today.
All right, let's see how far.
If possible, we go an extra 3 locks.
Let's see how far we go.
It's a long haul. So we're now at Aqueduct Lock. We've been going for a couple of miles, quite a few miles, and it's a hot and muggy day. Water level in the last pound was really, really low, which was sort of surprising. There was a handwritten sign on there saying close the top gates. The pound is really low, but it was even lower than I thought it would be, and it seemed to be getting lower as we went along. So I was a little worried we left the locks open down below, but we didn't. We didn't leave anything open. We've had a little bit of traffic, passed a couple of boats coming south, but not really much going on. Most of this section is sort of nice enough. Green and large amount of power poles, not the really big high tension power lines of before, but just power pylons and pylons and pylons. And feels a little isolated, but when you look through the trees you can just see, you know, just on the other side there's like distribution warehouses and other forms of like large-scale architecture and stuff. What's going on, Jojo?
Canoes, narrowboats, other boats, kayaks.
Joe's driving. That boat has just gone into the lock and appears to be wider than a narrowboat. So we probably won't be joining them, and we're not sure if this workbox is going up either. So I'm getting off at the lock landing to help out. Didn't get a shot of the, I guess you'd call it dinner boat leaving. It was serving meals on board and had a bunch of people inside. Looked really nice, actually. He's heading up and apparently turning before the next lock, so if we're lucky, it's either turning at or before the next lock, so if we're lucky, he says it'll be set for us when we arrive. So we'll see. That'd be nice, because these things are really heavy. And this one, the near door, the one on my side, we could only open about 2/3 of the way because it just started running into some crud underneath. It says to use the other one, so that's what we'll do on the way out. We were just talking to the CRT about the massive expense they incur due to fly tipping. There's part of it.
We did report this to the CRT, and when we came back down a week or so later, it had been cleared. Well, most of it had. And the really, really annoying thing is, this is most likely boaters' waste, because there isn't a public road that leads here. There's a private road and a private car park. Unfortunately, it most likely is boaters. So we were waiting to go into the lock, and there was 2 boats double moored on the lock landing, filling up with water. So Michael had to just hover around while the boat came down. And then as he came out, he didn't have anywhere to go and pick up his crew. So he did a little bump into their boat as he was coming out. And then we went up Fields Weir Lock, which is the last lock before the junction with the Stort. And these 2 boats didn't want to wait for us to leave the lock, so they came in while we were still in there, which is quite unusual. And then we turned onto the Stort.
We are now on a brand new navigation again. So that's bridge number 1 and lock number 15 of the River Stort. Thus far, the Stort Navigation has been very pretty, very green, and very overgrown. Every single spot that seems to be kind of accessible to a boat has been filled by a boat. Also, the locks are only 13 feet wide, 13 feet 6 inches, I think, so you couldn't go through with 2 narrowboats. So that's going to make progress a little bit slower if we actually run into anything where there's somebody else moving. So Joe's got her hand in some poo.
I haven't, it's not poo, it's quiet.
It will eventually hold poo.
I'm multitasking.
So this has been an adventurous day, in a weird way.
It's been a day.
Yeah. It's nothing particularly, out of the ordinary from the majority of it.
You know what it is? It's the fact that this is like the 4th or 5th day in a row of cruising, and we're just getting fatigued.
I think so, yeah. Too many days in a row of cruising.
Because we still haven't got the balance right.
Yeah.
A week of not going anywhere, then a week of moving.
Yeah.
We need to move every other day.
Yeah. We came onto the River Stort. First time on the River Stort, new navigation, and it's completely overgrown, and any place that isn't overgrown has a boat sitting there. So basically, this is the first spot.
Well, the boats are sitting in overgrown places, basically.
Yeah, so this is the first spot right here that is actually a visitor mooring. And it's not bad, except for there's about 8.5 inches of concrete with some rings, and then there's road. So we got here, George.
This train.
Yeah, there's a train over there. There's road right here.
It looked like a quiet village road. Then the first thing that we find is it's not so quiet.
I said, don't worry, Michael, because it's the only reason that road's a problem is there's a bit of noise. But the main thing is, like, George doesn't have any road sense, so we have to be really careful that he doesn't jump on and off the boat, so that's the main issue. But I was like, don't worry, it's a quiet road. And it is reasonably quiet.
Yeah, until the wide load truck with a very large house on it started coming over a bridge back there.
So we just moored up.
And all of a sudden, there's this car backing up really rapidly and yelling at this other person, "Oh, you muppet, there's a lorry coming." And I look up and, holy cow, there's a house coming across the road. And I go get George and then started trying to help direct traffic. The escort truck in front of the lorry, it says escorting wide load, which means you can be a pushy jackass, basically, right?
There's two guys sitting in it, and then there's Michael actually directing the traffic.
And I had to go up to the window. Like, when they got to the intersection, they just tried pushing through the intersection. I had to go up to the window to ask the guy, which way are you turning? Because this way is a rail bridge, and everyone on it is stuck waiting for the light to go because there's a train coming through. And he's just trying to push through as if he's got the right of way. And
everyone will just keep backing up for eternity.
Yeah, so there's like 3 cars that I've run backwards. They've pulled into one place. There's all these other people. There's a guy who's just swearing at me and giving the double finger salute. Not this one, you know. And is essentially, you know, he's like, you know, what are you doing? And I'm like,
trying to help.
I'm trying to get them out of your way. Like, stop yelling at me.
So it's quite an adventure.
A couple of people drive past and they're like, thank you. And it's like, oh, great.
Some people appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'm like, I just live on a boat and I don't have anything to do with this.
What else?
Well, there was the garbage point. It's an L-sand point. It is not a waste point. There is no access for trucks that can take garbage away. That's why it is not a waste point. And yet people have completely covered it in like 8 to 10 feet of trash, including tipped over and opened poo containers and things. It was the most disgusting thing I've seen in quite a long time.
One person like puts a bag down.
And somebody else thinks, oh, well, somebody else did it, so it's okay.
And it's definitely boaters, because like Michael said, there's no road out. There's a private road which is gated off, so there's no way that anyone who is going to fly tip is going to come all of the way out, you know, to carry their rubbish that they're fly tipping. It's definitely boaters going past.
There was an L-sand, which is all we needed. And there was some people sitting on the water point, which was sitting on the lock landing. I'm not sure why there are water points.
On this navigation and on the lee, the water points are either on the lock or on the lock landing.
Yeah, both of which are ill-convenient. But beyond all of that, it's been a lovely day.
I'm still surprised at how far up the lee is just packed with boats. It was only after, well, it's just continuous.
Yeah, pretty much continuous, yeah.
And considering how many moored boats there are, there's no boats moving. Well, there's a few we saw today, but not compared, if you compare it to the number of boats that actually are moored.
Yeah, no, it's basically a big residential area. I think we need to strategically take a day off in at least a day or two.
Yeah, I think
if we can find a place that's nice.
Yeah, if we find a nicer mooring, I wouldn't bother staying here tomorrow. Actually, I don't even know where we are. Is it Roydon or
Roydon?
Roydon.
Yeah, it's really kind of hard to find a proper balance, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
we are one extreme or the other.
Yeah, and like there's always sort of a sense of if we don't do the extremes, then we will run out of time.
Yeah, but because we have to repeat the Thames and we have to repeat the Oxford, we want to get beyond that. So we're kind of like feeling like we're in a rush, which is really stupid. But that's how we feel.
Basically, it's the end of August. We've got September, October. If by mid-October we're not up to nap, then the stoppages begin.
Yeah.
And
so yeah, we want to be stopped. If we're going to get stopped, which we should look them up, but we want to get stopped somewhere we haven't been before.
Yes, yeah. And if we can get up to Napton, then we have options.
Last winter we had a lot of places where we stopped for 2 weeks, then we moved on a bit, then we stopped for 2 weeks. Like we were on the Ashby for months.
Yeah.
Whereas this winter we want to find the balance that we haven't found.
And be able to stop and move and stop and move. And okay, when it freezes,
we'll stop.
We'll stop. But we actually really enjoyed moving in winter, like with snow and ice and everything.
But we just thought we had to stop for we'd find a nice mooring, then we'd stop for 2 weeks.
And that was just too much time sitting in one place.
And then the time we moved, we'd have a long day where...
It's all that thing about finding zen. Right? Where is the zen?
If we're still
it isn't at 2 weeks in a place, and it isn't at 24 hours in a place. Yeah. It's somewhere in between.
If we're still doing these videos in a year's time, I bet you will be saying, we still haven't found the balance.
Probably.
We were about 50-50 with the driving today. I think maybe I did slightly more than you.
Yeah.
which was really nice. Like, I should just do it more often.
Yes.
But notice how when it's push button locks, I'm like, oh no, I want to do the locks, and then when they're manual, I'm like,
Michael.
yeah. And you did realise how heavy they are today.
I knew how heavy they were before.
I know, but these
are heavier.
Heavy. Yeah, but
That's all good.
It was good swapping. We need to do that more often.
We do, yes. Which is why you're going to drive from Limehouse to Teddington, and I'm just going to sit on the front sipping.
Yeah, and then you'll be like, oh, it's really hard looking after George on the boat. Fine, if I'm going to do it, I might as well be in control and drive.
Well, I'm going to sit up there and talk about how hard it is to make food and watch water go by.
Make food and watch. Is that all I do?
Well, not when you're walking on.
Make food and watch water.
On the Thames, it's basically like, what are the options? It's like
I'm not making food on the Thames. I'm going to be too anxious. It's raining. We should stop this.
Yes, we're stopping this. Thanks for watching. Like, click, comment, subscribe, hit the doobly-doo, thingamajig, thumbs up, bell, etc. Goodbye. See ya.
Is everything recording? Is that recording?
That is. That isn't.
What isn't?
The GoPro. George, do you want to?
You can't give him chocolate.
Oh, okay.
Could give me chocolate. I don't want.
Didn't get a ship of the. So this is the lower lock number 1 of the River Store. We are now River Stort. So that's bridge number 1 and lock number 15 of the River Stort. So we're now actually on a new navigation. First one, well, since this morning when we came on to the River Lee, which was the first navigation we were on this morning. Anyway, now on the second navigation of the day, and a brand new thing, and a, sort of legacy need to make a review video at some point, somewhere around 2035. You may have noticed the car coming past.
I can itchy nose. I'm not wiping my snot.
Yeah. Muppets. I like the Muppets. I don't like all Muppets. A few cormorants and things in the water. George wants to go for a walkies on the road, but George is not allowed on the road. No, 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 no. The place I wasn't allowed to go. The words. The Severn. Up the Severn Bore. Right, so thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Enjoy the video.
They've enjoyed
You've already enjoyed the video. Thank you, for
all the support.
All the support and paying attention through the lovely montage of fly-tipped garbage that will show up at some point in this video.
I don't know, you filmed that, but...
Yeah, there's probably a pretty good slow motion shot of some stuff moving around the lock too. Yeah, so we'll see.
They're going to be bored of us talking about the Thames.
Well, wait till you see the Thames video. It's coming up. It'll be a while, but it's coming up.
We've probably already done it by the time this goes up.
Yeah, you got a backlog of videos. Also, there won't be any real-time video of the Thames because it's 4 hours.